Hello.
Sir?
Hello. Good afternoon, madam. Madam, have you received this material regarding to the program?
Sir, yes, sir.
Have you seen the templates I shared with you?
Yes, sir. Chushnam.
Okay. So
Thank you, sir.
hope you're able to understand that. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
If you have any queries or doubts, you can contact us. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you. May I know who is this techx.in with the name techx.in in the participants?
Yeah, it's me, Smita Kare. Sorry,
Oh,
just changing the name. Yeah.
Hello, madam. Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, good afternoon. Hello.
Yeah.
Just give me-
Madam, participants are joining slowly. Okay.
Okay, it's okay. We can wait.
For 5 minutes, we will start at 3:05.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Madam, with your permission, participants are joining slowly. We can start, I think. With your permission.
Yeah, we can start.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. So, thank you, ma'am. So, I request all the participants to keep your mics on mute. So, today we have our resource person, Dr. Smita Kale, who is working as a bio manager at Venture Center, Pune. She is leading the Center for Biopharma Analysis and Birax Regional Bio Innovation Center Projects or Venture Center. And also she looks at the center operations by interacting with the incubators. And she usually go and talk to them and so the types of services they need, she is going to fulfill all those things through her network. And she has enormous experience in grant writing for various government and non-government funding agencies. So Dr. Smita is a passionate researcher with decade plus years of experience in research and venture development. And she has awarded with a couple of awards at Able Best India 2014 at Entrepreneurship Workshop, Bangalore. And the other award is at Bioprocessing India 2014 at ICT Mumbai. And yeah, so earlier she used to work as assistant professor, that is your domain again, so the participants domain. So she has published around 14 research articles in various journals to her credit, and given a lot of invited talks at various venues. And looking into the personal life, she's very systematic person with good managerial skills and discipline. And also, madam, with your permission, she is also a good dancer and runs a YouTube channel. And I have seen a couple of your videos, madam, in the channel. They are remarkably very good. And so you have given that situational dances there. That's very nice. Thank you very much. And on the whole, I can say she is a strong woman personality who builds a much stronger innovation and startup ecosystem. Madam, on behalf of participants and AIC Sri Krishna Deva Raya University, so it is our pleasure to invite you to take a talk on how to write grants for various agencies, and what are the key expectations of the granting agencies that one can expect. And the important part is the financial management and mapping the ecosystem resources. So I think these will cover in this session. I invite you. So I request you to take over the session. Thank you very much for being here, and over to you, madam.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'll first share my screen, and I see that maybe you'll have to allow me to share this.
Now you can share it.
Yes. So I request all the participants to please keep it interactive. You can keep posting your questions in the chat box, and I can take them up at the end of the session. But you can keep posting the questions as you think of any while you are listening to me and from any particular slide. So this is a topic. It's a broad topic, and there are different parts to it. So I'll be covering those. But before we start with my presentation, yeah, let me quickly tell you about Venture Center from where I am. So we are one of India's leading inventive business incubator. We are situated in Pune, Maharashtra. So we are an incubator under CSIR. So I am sure everyone knows about CSIR, National Chemical Laboratory, NCL Pune. So we are hosted by CSIR NCL. In fact, we are the first technology business incubator under CSIR. So I'll also tell you, as an incubator, what do we do to support researchers and entrepreneurs. So we are registered as a non-for-profit company. So being a non-for-profit, we are eligible for CSR funds, and those funds are really useful to fund very good ideas of our entrepreneurs or to build some of the facilities at Venture Center. We are now almost 15 years old. And as I said, we are the first incubator under CSIR. We are also approved by NSTEDB, which is a body under Department of Science and Technology, and BIRAC, that's DPT, and recognized as a DSIR and DIPP facility. So these are few recognitions which we have won on national and international platform. So here you see Dr. Premnath, he is the founder director of Venture Center, receiving this national award. That's my colleague Soma. This is an international award which we won, and this is the recent one. So what is the mission of Venture Center as a technology business incubator? So we are here to nucleate and nurture. So by nucleate, we mean if you are a first generation entrepreneur and you don't know how to, get into entrepreneurship, how to start your own company, startup. So at that stage, as well as nurture means if you already have a startup and say after a few years, you're looking for some scaling up and you need to raise more funds. At that stage also we help. And whom do we help is all technology and knowledge-based enterprises. So you can see here our focus area is inventive enterprises. Anyone who is working on an inventive idea is welcome. And how do we do that is by leveraging the scientific and engineering competencies of the institutions in the region. So we have a very good, mentor pool. We are well connected with and engaged with mentors from different fields of all these sectors and business who help our startups. So we are sector agnostic. These are the different sectors which are supported at Venture Center. So some of the unique aspects I would like to highlight. So as I said, we are 15 years old now. Till date, we have supported 600 plus startups. 150 plus have been on our campus. That means they have established their lab on the campus and started from here. We have supported 10 spin-off companies. So what is a spin-off is, like you all, if you all are doing some good academic R&D work, and if it has a commercialization potential, then we have a flagship program called as Lab to Market. So we help researchers take their idea from lab to market, help them commercialize it. And these companies are called spin-off companies. So till date, we have supported 10 such companies. I already mentioned that we have a very highly engaged community of mentors. We keep conducting events throughout the year, and these events actually provide a good platform to network, connect, learn, get to know more people, and that's how it helps. So we provide high-touch mentoring to all the science and technology-focused early stage startups. When we say early stage, either they are at concept, that is idea stage, or they are at POC, that is proof of concept, where they have done some experiments and they have some data, or if they have a prototype. So this is the stage wherein we help startups. So 85% of startups held by us are still active, and 75% and more are ones who are working on inventive products. And here you can see that almost 100 plus unique families of patents have been filed by our startups. Very proud to tell you that more than 30% of the founders here are women founders, and 85% founders are founders who have higher degrees from premium institutes from India, abroad. Also, there are people who have a rich work experience from different industries, and then, like a second innings, they have got into entrepreneurship. So totally we have a 50,000 square feet of space in this campus for incubation, where we have created unique resource centers. I'll talk about these in my later slides. So this is the impact. Almost 500 crore money has been, raised by our startup as a risk capital. So what do I mean by risk capital? I'll just explain you. And then almost 1,000 crore revenue has been generated by our startups. By risk capital, I mean the funding raised by them, because early stage is where you're trying to de-risk the technology by maybe performing more and more set of experiments, checking the reproducibility of your technology through carrying out different activities. So this period involves a lot of risk, and the early stage funding is all about de-risking the technology, and that's why we are referring to it as a risk capital. So this is a complete innovation ecosystem at Venture Center, which we are providing to our startups. So we provide dedicated lab spaces as well as office spaces. Then, as I said, high touch mentoring. So the mentoring can happen online or offline. So online, we have a mentor pool platform, a website where you can connect with the mentor and get started with your mentoring sessions. We host a lot of funding, in form of fellowships. There are POC and prototyping grants. We host 3 seed funds. There are a lot of CSR funds, and we are implementation partners of many of the funding calls by DST and DBT. We have a very good library at Venture Center. There's this funding database which I'll advise all of you to look at. So if you type funding database at Venture Center, you will be directed to a website where we collate all the information about the different funding opportunities which are open for any startup or researcher. So there are different filters. Then you can search based on the kind of requirement you have. Say if you're looking for 5 lakhs or 50 lakhs, or at what stage of technology development you are. So please do visit that funding database website to get more information. Then other than the dedicated lab spaces, we have our own lab spaces which we have created where we house basic equipment for chemistry, biology, analysis. These are called as hot labs or shared labs. So the objective here is, suppose if you take a dedicated lab space and you don't have, lot of funds with you to invest in some of the basic equipment. Suppose you might not have money, say, for buying a laminar airflow or a fermenter yourself. So all these are there with us, which you can, book in advance and use in our shared lab. Then we have a very good prototyping lab, tinkering lab to make your prototype. So here we have all the electronics and engineering equipment like 3D printer, laser cutter, scanner, PCB, injection molding machine. So, many people are working in implants, devices, so they need to make their prototype, 3D printed prototype, do some testing, design, all that can be done here. Then there are people working in chemicals, biologics, so they need to test their samples, right? So they need to test their samples using the high-end analytical equipment, say like right from chromatography, spectroscopy. So we have 3 labs. So we have 3 LCMS systems with us. We have all, say, DSC, confocal microscope, flow cytometer, all high-end analytical equipment are there in these labs. Then there are a lot of people who are working in healthcare, and not only healthcare, but any domain you enter, you need to understand what kind of approvals, certifications would be required later for your products, and that needs to be understood early during the technology development so that you can build all that in your product. So to understand that, we have a team in place that's called as Regulatory Information and Facilitation Center, which helps our startups. Then there is a technology transfer office, which helps connect technology seekers and technology providers. So especially when you are in academics, sometimes you may not, take your product or your idea up to the last TRL level. You might be looking at a technology transfer, and you might be looking at a company which can, take your technology from you. They can pay you a royalty or some shares in their company and then actually launch it. So this team helps academicians and industries do that. Then we have an Intellectual Property Facilitation Center. So as I said, we work with inventive enterprises. So these people need to protect their inventions. They need to file intellectual properties, either as patent, copyright, trademark. So all those filings, our team has patent agents and they help them. Then for long-term, expansions, we have partnerships for designing, prototyping, try manufacturing, other services also. And these are few national programs which we are running with the Department of Science and Technology and Department of Biotechnology. So very happy to showcase this success story slide. So here you see the logos and names of the startups who have technologies which are either first in India or first in world. Okay, like for example, Jeeptronics is a company. They have a dual-powered hand-tracked defibrillator. So we know that, in case of an emergency, a heart attack, in remote settings, villages or ambulances, if there is no electricity there. In that case, this could be a life-saving product. So these are some of them. So these are the spin-out success stories from academic R&D labs who have taken their products from lab to market with our help. So they are from NCL and one is from ICER. But we are open to any academic institute if they have a very good product or process and they want to then commercialize it. They're welcome to discuss with us. So this is a quick Incubator snapshot of the startups who are there on the campus right now. So as I said, most of them are working in healthcare, and these are the different domains which are coming up at Venture Center. People are working on biomed devices, implants, making new diagnostics, environment sustainability solutions, biopharma products and advanced services, agriculture, industrial biotechnology, bio-IT, engineering, industrial biotech, and then there are ecosystem partners. So we are providing all kind of advanced services related to scientific facilities or technology commercialization, but we also have some other partners, that is one IP firm, one more IP firm on campus, one CA firm who help our startups. So these are our supporting partners from government, Algos Institute, NCL, DST, DBT, MSME, DSIR, TDB, TIFAC, and then these are our CSR partners who help us to set up some of our facilities and also fund some of our startups. So these are few glimpses of the facility here, the tinkering lab, prototyping lab, which I mentioned. We also have a medtech clean room that's a ISO class 7 and 8, and it's ISO certified. This is our mass spectrometry lab. These are the shared lab spaces. This is the cell studio where we have confocal microscope, flow cytometer. This is the bioincubator building. This is the front view of Venture Center, our library, our event spaces, meeting rooms. Just to give you one example, anyone who is working to make a medtech product, say a medical device, then we have a whole suite of services and facilities for them to generate their proof of concept, make their prototype, do trial manufacturing and sterilization packaging. We have clean room, and to understand the regulatory pathway, we have RISCT. So that was about Venture Center. Now getting into the topic. So I have here 3 parts in my presentation. First, I'll talk about the different sources of funds for a startup or an idea, which are the different funding opportunities which are available in India. Then we will move into, to raise all these funds, we need to write proposals, right? Either grant proposal or we need to pitch to investors. So how the proposal should be written, how it should be. Then we will move into some specific schemes, the details I would share with you. Okay. So to start with, which are the different sources of funds for a startup, anyone who's working on a good idea. So then you can start from government. You can look at different funding agencies of government, or you can look at bilateral and multilateral agencies. I'll give you specific examples. You can look at charities, incubators. There are grants, there are soft loans, there are investments. One should definitely start first by looking at 3 Fs. That refers to friends, family, and fools. Crowdfunding sites. You can actually have 2 streams of work in your startup. One which generates revenue, and the same revenue can then be invested in your own R&D. You can look at angel investors. There are seed funds by incubators. There are venture funds. Impact investors are there. Banks, debt, equity. All these are there. We'll talk about them. But do look here, to raise money, you must have a good idea which has potential for scalability. It's economically viable and useful. So let's look at some of the funds. So the funds can come as fellowships or grants or investments. So when it is a fellowship, since you all are academicians here, maybe you can learn about this and pass on the message to your students, because most of the fellowships, though these are also applicable for faculty members, if they want to take on entrepreneurship as a full-time thing. So in that case, they can also think of these fellowships. So fellowships usually are applicable at little early stage when you are at idea or early proof of concept stage. Fellowships are non-returnable. No one will ask you to return that money which they have given you as a fellowship. As an individual, you can apply. As an individual, you get funded. But you have to be a dedicated entrepreneur. You can't do it part-time. It is a full-time thing. And to raise fellowships, you just need a basic plan. You may not be asked for lot of details which would come in the later things. And a fellowship usually is kind of a stipend which amount which you get per month. Next, moving on to grants. So grants usually are right from idea stage to POC, prototype. Then there are grants for late stage also for certifications or trials. Now, in case of grants, again, no one will ask you to return the money. Usually, it is kind of a grant in aid, we call. That is to help you develop your technology from, say, TRL 1 to, say, TRL 3, from one level to another level. And what they would expect in return is there will be some deliverables you will define, or you will say that these tasks will be completed using this funds. So you have to then report that, okay, this has been completed, and based on that, the grant gets released. Okay. But these days, there are some granting agencies which ask for some royalty. There are royalty clauses, say 5% or 10%. So you really need to look at those agreements carefully. Again, grants, individuals are also eligible or startup. But for grants, you need projects which have defined deliverables, defined activities which will lead to some accomplishments, and those would be your deliverables. And you need a person as a dedicated project investigator, PI. You need some more details in your plan, like what would be your detailed work plan, how will you progress, how will you then take it to market, what would be your deliverables after, say, each 6 months, when you will be evaluated, because grant amount, you will not get the whole amount at the beginning itself. It is released as tranches, as part payment once you complete each deliverable which you have defined. Okay. So a fixed amount as laid out in the scheme, you will be, the part payment would be released as per what is decided in the scheme. Next comes investment, which usually comes at a little later stages than fellowship and grants. Once you have proven your concept, or maybe even you have early traction, you are already generating some revenue, and this would come in form of equity, loan, and this is returnable. Okay, you'll have to return. This is usually for a company to run company operations, maybe and here, since this is at a little later stage, you will be expected to have a team in place with a dedicated founder for that team who is looking after the whole management. And this would be a more like an investor pitch deck presentation where you will cover everything, right from the problem you are solving to solution to what is your business model, how much is the market, how is the returns, on investment, everything needs to be covered. So this is decided based on various factors actually, right from team to founder, to what domain you're working on in, what is the idea and the product, whether it is disruptive or whether it is an incremental innovation, everything will be looked at. So I hope these three things are clear to us: fellowship, grants, and investments. So these are the different fundraising buckets, or I can say different stages at which you might raise different kind of fundings. So let's understand these stages. So we start with R&D first. When we have an idea, we do some experiments. That's our research and development, and we can say pre-POC, or by doing R&D we generate proof of concept. That's POC. Then we validate our POC, right? We do more studies, or we make a prototype. Finally, we get to a functional prototype or a pilot which can be manufactured. Okay. Then we do other certifications, validation studies. If it is to be used in healthcare, we might need to do clinical validation, or if it is a drug product, then clinical trials. Then finally, once we have all certifications, approvals, we'll get into manufacturing. Then would come sales, business development, and finally scale up. So having understood these stages, these are the stages which I was talking about. Bottom here, you can look at these different stages. And based on at what stage of technology development you are, you need to look for those kind of fundings. Okay. So also look here at the top. So you need to understand that if I need 10 CR to get my product to market, I don't need that 10 CR at the beginning itself, right? I need it over the period of time. So I can start with a small amount and then I can keep raising on my way on this journey. So sometimes people have this notion and this mindset that to start a business, to get into a business, I should have a good amount of money with me. Then only I can be an entrepreneur. That is not the case. You can raise money and you can raise small amounts initially and prove yourself, prove your concept, and then keep raising. Okay. So that's how, and we'll be talking about these schemes in detail in next slides. So few funding opportunities I have put here based on which are the fellowships, grants. So fellowships for students, especially, you must tell them. There is a fellowship called as Nidhi EIR by DST, which is almost 30,000 rupees per month fellowship for 1 year, wherein the entrepreneur gets to work on their idea. They can refine their idea. And once they get this grant, they can work with an incubator like us. They get space in our incubator to work with the facilities which we have and, prove their idea and refine their business plan. Then this is a Social Innovation Immersion Program Fellowship, SIIP by DBT BIRAC, where the fellowship is around 50,000 per month. And this is an immersion program. So here what we do is we take the fellows, the selected fellows, for field trips, for actual interaction with different stakeholders, their potential customers, to understand the problem properly, clearly. So the need assessment needs to be done very thoroughly. And once you understand the need properly, you will be able to then develop a good solution. So all this happens over a year's period, and then they work on that need assessment, come up with a good idea, then solution, and that's the fellowship for social alpha entrepreneurs. So you can look at social alpha fellowships. This is usually 60,000 per month. Then comes grant. So these are the different grants one can avail. There is a Nidhi Prayas, that's a prototyping grant of 10 lakhs. Then there are different grants by BIRAC. Some are applicable at early stage, some at little later stage. There are few grants which are for faculty, few for startups. Then there is DSR Prison and CSR. There are bilateral and multilateral like Indo-UK, Indo-US, where two parties are involved, that's bilateral. Then there is Swiss Next, Techstars, Rebel Bio, Millennium Alliance, Bill and Melinda Gates challenges, Grant Challenge, all this comes under this. Then there are investments and state government funding. So you can always look at your own state government funding or angel investors or investor forum in that area. So there is Indian Angels Network, Mumbai Angels, there is a Chennai Angels Network, also Kiritsu seed funds. All this one can look at. So this is one example of BIRAC funding schemes. So BIRAC has different funding schemes right from proof of concept stage to prototype to getting approvals, commercial production, and finally to commercialize your product. So there is Biotechnology Ignition Grant, that is BIG, which is a 50 lakhs grant over 18 months period. Then there is SIIP, which I just mentioned. There is SIBRI and BIPP, which are little late stage grant, maybe for validating your product or technology. And these are then matched funding. So what do we mean by matched funding is, in BIG, it's a grant funding where you get 50 lakhs. But in SIBRI, suppose if you want to ask for 1 CR, then it's a matched funding. Means up to 50 lakh, it is a grant. But anything above 50 lakh, you have to get matched funding. Means for 1 CR, BIRAC will give you first 50 lakhs. And the rest of the 50 lakh, 25 lakh will come from BIRAC. 25 lakh you will have to get from somewhere. Okay. So that's called as a match funding. And then there is SPARSH, which is like BIG for social innovations, 50 lakh grant. And then there are funds by National Biopharma Mission to support biopharma related work. And then there is ACE fund, okay, which is for commercialization. So I did mention about this funding database, and here's the link. I can paste it in the chat box later. Please have a look at it and have few glimpses of it. So once you go to this link, you will see this website will open, and you can see there are announcements which we keep updating. So you will get to see whichever call is open, that announcement would be there. And then you can search like this. There are simple search options available here based on source of funding, based on type of funding. Like for example, there are useful links also provided. So you can directly go to those links. Say suppose if you are looking for multilateral grants, you can go to Welcome UK site and look for the details there. Or you can browse by, as I said, type of funding you're looking for, or range of funding, at what stage you are, or what is the focus area. All this can be done. So for example, if you are going by type of funding, then these are the different options. You can even look for awards. There are sometimes a lot of funds come as awards also, or fellowships, or equity, grant, debt, or other. Yeah. So that was about different funding opportunities which one has. So I hope we are clear till here. So we understand that grants are usually in aid where we are not asked anything in return. But if it is an equity, then you will be asked for dilution in your company. You have to give some shares to whoever is investing. And if it is debt, loan, in that case, you will have to pay them back along with the interest. So, and these are the different funding options. Now that we have understood which are the different funding options, next thing is how to raise these funds. So to raise these funds, most of the times when we are into academic R&D organizations, we have to write proposals, right, to submit to these funding agencies. So we need to prepare a proposal to get these funds. So before we start working on the proposal, we must read the scheme document or guidelines very, very, very carefully. Okay, because funding will come only when your interest and the interest of the funding agency match. So for that, to understand that clearly, we must read this carefully, especially the eligibility criteria and what are the deliverables expected, what all is funded, what are the budget components, all that needs to be thoroughly understood. So once you have understood, you have read it carefully, what you might do is you can have a checklist. You can prepare a small checklist. You can also look for what kind of projects that particular funding agency. Suppose if you are writing a proposal to Venture Center to raise some funds, you can look at Venture Center website and our funding database, who we have helped, what kind of startups or ideas we have supported. So then you might get an understanding that what we are actually looking for. So whether your project will fit into those guidelines, what is the selection process, how long the whole process takes. So we all understand right from the submission of the application till it gets reviewed, you're called for a presentation, and then the results. So all this can take somewhere from say 6 months to 9 months also. Okay. So you need to understand those timelines, whether your organization is eligible for it, who are the concerned. You must know who is the person you can reach out to in the funding agency if you have some last minute questions, queries about the call and how to write the application. So yeah, by a proposal document, what are we doing is we are making a document which has details of why we need the funds, what would be the manpower requirement, what facilities we need, what equipment are planned. So while we are writing this, we need to keep in mind that we are actually writing a marketing document, okay, where we are trying to sell our dream, and person who want to read, they will, that passion with which we are writing, that would come across and they would be convinced to actually invest. So it's kind of selling our dream to an investor. So in an application proposal, what all needs to be addressed? So usually these all things would be there as the component of any application. So what is your objective? So you need to define what do you actually want to do. And when you are defining your objective, you really have to be very crisp and specific. You cannot have 3 to 4 or 5 lines objectives. Okay, objectives have to be very short, simple, and self-explanatory. Like the title also. If you are starting with a title for your project, a title cannot run to up to 3 lines or 4 lines. 1 line title, and reading the title, I should get to know which domain you are working in, what is your product or process, you are trying to develop. Because most of the times, these funding agencies would like to select the reviewer for your project. So based on the title, they'll decide under which domain this would fall, and accordingly they'll assign it to a reviewer. So it should be clear from your title. What is the rationale? Why are you working on it? So you really need to justify it with the help of data. Now that data can come from, say, authentic reports from, say, WHO or some associations from India or some recognized associations. So try to add data there. Just don't add some sentences, put some literature evidence, some data that, okay, this agency says that these many number of people are suffering and these many more might suffer in, say, by 2025. So that's why we need to work on this particular disease condition, something of that sort, okay? What would be the outcome? Finally, say if you are writing a proposal to work on a project for 1 year. So in that 1 year, what will be the outcome? What will you have? What would be ready? So you cannot say in 1 year you will be doing end-to-end, right? From, generating POC, proof of concept, to prototype, to taking it to market. That is not possible. So your outcomes should be realistic. That could be achieved in that period and with that much amount of money. Okay, that always keep it in mind. That is the first thing the funding agency will look at. The methodology, what is your plan? So what is your work plan? So once you have defined objective and outcome, to achieve that, what are the different activities you are showing there? Okay, and whether you have planned it systematically, and does it make real sense, and whether it is feasible, that will be checked. Budget, yes, how much will it cost? So that you need to check. So if you're proposing anything to be completed in that much period, so if, say, funding agency is giving 25 lakhs and you are putting in their activities which actually need 1 CR, then they will just not look at your proposal. They will say that you have not seriously thought about it. So you should propose whatever is possible with that amount of budget. Timelines should be again very realistic. You cannot say everything would be done in 2 months. So this is where actually people, we face issues that people overpromise, they like overcommit that all this would be done in 6 months, which is not possible. So you have to be really very realistic. Evaluation. So how will you evaluate whether your objectives, outcomes, goals have been met or not? So you need to tell that by the end of 6 months, with these set of experiments, I will have this data. So that data will be my evaluation criteria for my progress monitoring. Okay. Credibility. Why you? Why you are the right person to do this? So that can come from your academic background. maybe your PhD in a particular subject and you have the expertise, or you have a very good work experience in that particular focus area, thrust area, or you have good publications in that area, or you have maybe industry experience in that area. So why you? Your resume will talk about you. So I'll just quickly give you one example of BIG, that's BIRAC's Biotechnology Ignition Grant. So we all know that there is a Ministry of Science and Technology under which we have Department of Biotechnology, DBT, and DBT supports basic research, but we have BIRAC, that's Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, which is a Section 8 company of DBT, and that supports applied research. And there are a lot of funding opportunities by BIRAC for different stages. So BIG comes at early stage, which supports projects which where you are planning to establish or validate a proof of concept. So this is applicable for individuals as well as startups. This is a grant, but recently they have added a royalty clause of 5%. This is a funding up to 50 lakhs over 18 months. And you need to be associated with one of the BIG partners. So there are recognized incubators in India as BIG partners. We are one of them. So what is the opportunity here? So the opportunity is actually same for any grant. Once you apply for a grant, your idea is actually getting evaluated by experts and reviewers, and you get their comments and you can then further work on them. So you need to understand that what is supported by BIG, what is not supported. So usually many of the grants, they don't support PhD research, exploratory research, something which is not possible with that particular amount of money, where there is no novelty or there is no plan for further taking it to market. So what is supported is technology objectives. If you're de-risking the technology, if you're really generating some good scientific data, which you can later maybe demonstrate to people who are interested in taking your technology transfer, or investors to raise more money and set up your own unit. So broadly, these are the domains which are supported under BIG. Then, as I said, every grant will have an eligibility criteria, right? So BIG also has an eligibility criteria. You can apply as a startup. As a startup, to apply, your company should not be more than 5 years old. And as an individual, if you are applying, so you have to have that commitment that you will invest your full time if you are selected for this project. And you will have to establish a company once you get the BIG grant. So let's look at the evaluation criteria, and the criteria is very much same for other funding agencies also and the grants. So they look at your technical feasibility, whether technically whatever you are proposing. So this would be reviewed by technical experts from your field, whether there is novelty, what is the importance and potential impact of the work you are doing, whether it can be commercialized, how is the team, how credible they are, how strong they are. Are there some very big barriers with respect to, say, some environmental hazards with your technology or processes, or if we feel that a lot of approvals would be required, it's not possible. And then what is your work plan towards it? How does it look like? So sometimes this is not an additive score. Even if you fail in one of these, your proposal might just fail. Okay. So what are some tips and pointers? So as I said, when you're writing a proposal, you are actually telling a story. It's a marketing document. Okay. So these could be few of your opening lines. So you might start as, that this is an unmet need, which if solved will have enormous importance, or you may put it as the solution lies in, or people have tried it this way, but these are the problems or shortcomings of whatever they are doing, and then we have come up with this solution. So this is how you can build your story. You might say that we are uniquely positioned to attempt this solution, and why that you can explain. Or if you have a very good background, your team is very strong, you might like to start this way. So that's how, these are the different opening sentences to build your storyline. So for any grant, you will have to explain what is the problem you're working on, you're trying to solve. What is that unmet need which you have identified? So when you're talking about the problem, be very, very specific. Usually we tend to start with a very broader overview and then come to the actual problem. So sometimes here in these kind of grants, they want it to be really short with specific problem definition. Okay, and if you're defining problem, then obviously that problem may not be a very new one. There would be people working on it already. There would be some current standard of care, means the current way people are solving that problem, and what are those? If there are problems with those solutions, then what are those problems? Those you can highlight. So for example, here if you see, if I am working on developing a point of care device for detecting blood glucose, okay? So if I am writing a proposal, then in that case, I need not start with how many people in the world are suffering with diabetes, what does diabetes do, how it is, caused, what is the treatment. No, I can directly start with diagnosis of diabetes, how it is done now, what are the problems, okay, and what is the data related to the diagnosis of diabetes. And then once I have explained the problem and need, when next slide I am explaining my solution, that what are the features or what is my technology all about, it's always good to use images to explain, because images help to understand, visualize. For example, if I had to just tell you that I am working on developing a point of care device for detection of blood glucose, you might not understand it better than if I show you this, right? By looking at this, you also understand that in my kit, in my diagnostic device, there will be a pricking needle with which you need to prick your finger, place it on a strip like this. So there will be a strip which will be provided. And then that strip needs to be placed in this kind of a device which will come. And then you will see the reading, okay, blood glucose reading. So that's how we do. So this is what is the benefit of adding images, okay. So with this, I also want to convey that when you buy my product, this is a one-time investment, but you might have to buy the needle and the strips again, okay. So that would be my business model, that I sell the equipment, that is one time, okay, say for 1,000 rupees. But then people keep coming back to my company to buy these consumables from me. So this is how a picture is more useful in explaining. Then we talked about that we are not the first people to work on anything, right? There would be others also who will be working on these technologies. So we really need to do a very good competitive analysis, as well as before you start working, you need to do this, and a good prior art search of patents. If people have reported some patents around whatever idea you're working on, the area you're working on, then what is the freedom to operate for you? Because we all know that, if we work for, say, we spend 3 to 5 years of our research, and then later if we get to know that, oh, this has been already published and reported and patented, then we can't patent it, right? And no one will buy that technology. So do it upfront, do the competition analysis, market research, look for the patent around it, and then start working. So when you're looking at competitors, look at different parameters and compare. So this is very much required in any grant application, that what is your technology, and you can select some parameters with respect to your own product or technology and then compare. And while you're comparing, try to keep it quantitative. In fact, anywhere possible in your application, wherever you can include quantitative terms rather than qualitative and subjective terms. Use quantitative terms, that if I'm trying to develop a machine, I'm sure it will detect within 30 minutes compared to currently whatever is there in the market, they are taking, say, 2 to 8 hours. So I put it that way. Instead of saying that mine will take less time, they are taking more time. Okay, or mine will be more affordable, theirs is expensive. When you're saying more affordable, can you tell me that, the cost currently is 10x and I would like to reduce it to say 10 times? These kind of, if efficiency, if you're talking about. So I am planning to increase the efficiency by say 50%. So use these kind of quantitative terms. That's very, very important. Preliminary data, if any. Now this is the very important slide, because usually for many of the grants, whether you apply as an academician or a startup, you will be asked what work you have done previously. Okay. So when you are presenting that, keep it short, like what was the aim, what was the plan, how did you perform it, and what result you have got. So show the result, show those pictures, show those graphs. Okay. So that indicates that you know how to do it. It is doable, it is feasible, and you are getting the kind of results which are expected. Again, very important is how you show your team. So maybe you add a photo, then you add, so usually resumes would be added, but if it is a short presentation, then mention your name, your designation, your area of expertise, your years of experience, how many years of experience, and how are you going to contribute to this particular project, whether you are project leader, you are co-project leader, or you are good at technical things, or you are a business mentor, or you are good at finance, whatever. And other than your full-time team, you would have some people who would be, very experienced in that field. They may not join you full-time, but they might advise you from time to time. So you can include a list of advisors too. Novelty and IP, I said that they are very important in many of the grants. So as I said, you must do a prior art search for patents and add that report to your grant. For novelty, one thing is your freedom to operate, whether you have already filed an IP, and then your differentiation. So that differentiation will come from your competitive landscape slide, which we just discussed, competition. So all that will help bring out the novelty. And what would be your IP strategy? You might start with an Indian patent, or you might say, mention the different geographies, PCT, whatever is your plan. So when we say about the grant proposal and deliverables, what do we mean by that? So say for BIG, it's 18 months project. So we need to have 3 milestones, okay, M1, M2, M3 after each 6 months. So the whole 50 lakh we will not get as soon as the result is announced, okay. You will get first say 30%, then next 30%, then next 40% based on what progress is made by you. So when you are defining these deliverables, outcomes, you will say first 6 months I will work on designing of prototype. By designing of prototype, what do you mean? So you might say I will hire people in my team, I will get equipment, I will start with the design finalization, design would be finalized, and performance evaluation will be checked. So when you present to the committee, they will ask you for the proof of all these. And if they are satisfied, they will sign your report, and then you will get the next tranche. So that's how it happens. So you have to carefully define these milestones and your grant end deliverable. So when you're defining deliverable also, you see here, we have made it very quantitative, especially since it's a diagnostic device. Specificity, sensitivity, time, all this is very, very important. Okay. So next, they'll ask you commercialization strategy. Means, say right now as a academician, you may not understand all the business terms, but as a layman, you should be able to explain what are you going to sell and to whom. Who would be your customers? Whether you will sell your process or a product or a service, what would be the components of your product, whether you will rent it out or you will sell it at once and take the money. So all these things put together make your business model. Okay. Timeline. Yes, any funding agency, they would also like to know that after getting their fund, what is the further plan? Because they don't want you to stop at that level, okay, of technology readiness. They want you to take that product till your customers, okay. And everything is not possible with one grant. Say for BIG, with BIG, if you're making your prototype and validating it, then the BIG will ask you what is your plan ahead of BIG. How much time you will need, say 18 months of BIG, then say another 2 years or 3 years or 4 years to finally take your product to commercialization. And do you know what are the different steps between these two things? And have you identified from where will you raise funds for, say, getting to right channels, getting certification, setting up your manufacturing unit, doing business development, marketing, all that. So that is also important to understand all the timelines. So as I said, you might get 30% when you sign the agreement, you get the grant. Next releases depend on how you progress, how you are able to achieve what you have promised to the funding agents. Okay. So you will have to prepare a budget. So while you are doing this exercise, as I said, read the guideline document very carefully. Like for example, in BIG, there are some caps, okay, upper cap. For equipment, you cannot ask more than 30% of say 50 lakh, which is the grant fund. For manpower, you can't ask more than 30%. For travel, it is only up to 1.5 lakh. So you have to stick to these limits. So for that, you should have read the guidelines carefully. And then if you are asking, say, 15 lakhs for equipment, then you need to justify which equipment you will be buying, which equipment will be used for what kind of experiment. Similarly, for manpower, you will have to say what designation and what would be the role of that person. Same goes with consumables, your travel plan, what kind of services you would be outsourcing, some experiments, why you are outsourcing, why you are not doing yourself. All these justifications would come here. So just few tips. Be very realistic, very specific and factual. Okay, don't be very subjective, like it's not essay writing. Okay, so don't talk in general things and emotional terms. Don't use that. Use a language which anyone can understand and make it interesting for anyone to read. Okay, and to understand. Choose a format that is clear, easy to read. Know your funder. Do that homework. What are they looking for? Try to understand that and build that in your application. So research the funder's guidelines to make sure you're meeting those requirements. Start with a brief summary and you will have to do versions of it. Okay, with your team, you said you prepare one version, you'll do a brainstorming, then you might come up with, that okay, maybe we should write this particular paragraph in this way. So do that again and again. Just it shouldn't be that the HOD is only writing the proposal and then submitting it. No, involve your team members, have a healthy discussion with everyone. People would have very good suggestions to take. So this helps. So start with a brief summary and then develop. Propose a very realistic budget. Sometimes people fail here and then their applications fail. Don't ask for more than you need. Okay. Use figures. Use some pictures and records and data. Submit all of the requested application materials carefully, whatever annexures are required. Take your time, write it again and again, improve on it. Okay. Read the instructions, again, read the instructions. Meet the deadline. Don't work when you are nearby the deadline, then you might miss out on many of these things. So prepare well in advance and keep working on it. So those were a few guidelines, and now I think, yeah. So write, rewrite again. So the advantage here is sometimes, people get demotivated or feel sad that they have been submitting, but they are not getting successful. So don't take it otherwise. If you are not successful, call the funding agency, try to find out what has gone wrong so that you can improve on it and then resubmit. Okay. So few funding opportunities, like I mentioned about SPARSH, SIIP fellowship and the SPARSH grant. So just to give you one example, usually the SPARSH grant and SIIP fellowship, they are based on a theme. So say last fall, the theme was on aging, geriatric health and assisted living products. So these were the fellows who were selected and these were the ideas they were working on. And this year, the fellows are selected in agri-tech area. So every year they define some themes. So if you are working on those kind of themes, then you should apply for it. So my colleague Mugdha Lele takes care of social innovations vertical at Venture Center. So if you are working on any of social innovation ideas, or if your students are working on the same, please get in touch with her to get more details. Next is Nidhi Prayas grant, where we are an implementing partner. So this is a 10 lakh rupees grant which you get to make your prototype. All these areas are supported. So as a Nidhi Prayas grantee, you get space at an incubator to work. Okay, this is a full-time thing. So student or startup are eligible for this grant. But if as a student you want to apply, you should have completed your graduation at least. So again, there are few things which are supported, few things which are not supported. So that also you should be clear of. And there is Nidhi EIR, which I mentioned, which is a fellowship program, which is again a full-time, and we are not only the implementation partner for EIR, but also the program execution partner in India for DST Nidhi EIR. This is a funding to individuals. It's a stipend, 30,000 per month for 1 year. This is at idea stage. And anyone who has completed minimum 4 years of graduation, or if you have a company, it should be less than 1 year old. Okay. And you can apply for both Prayas and EIR. We keep announcing the calls on our social media handles. And Amruta Gore is my colleague who looks after this. This is her email address. So if you have any queries regarding EIR and Prayas, or if you wish to apply, you can write to her. Next, very important one. This one is for all academicians. That is by BIRAC. This is PACE grant, promoting academic research conversion to enterprise. So there are two types here, AIR and CRS. AIR, you can apply as only academia. For CRS, you need to have an industrial partner with you. This call opens thrice a year and all the guidelines are there. But what they look for is, you know, whether you have done some initial experiments and you have some proof of concept, or in your resume, have you worked on similar kind of projects before, and you have that kind of expertise. And commercialization potential is must. Okay, and what is your plan to do that? So we do provide, you know, mentoring for all these calls, how to apply. And BIG call will now open in July till August, and we do provide mentoring and awareness sessions for BIG too. So anyone who has a good idea in this domain, which are supported by BIG, they can talk to us. So that's all about from my side, and we can take up few questions. So please connect with us on social media to stay updated with all our funding calls, our events, news announcements, and you can benefit from those. So that's all from my side, and we'll now open it up for a discussion and Q&A. I am sure many of you would have a lot of questions, and I can even relate to your questions because I was in academics for almost 12 years. So I'll be happy to help you all. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us to the different innovations in the different sectors. Madam, can you give us some more info regarding the social innovations? Because our students are carrying out socially relevant projects as a part of their curriculum. So what type of projects the students would be can take in order to more achieve regarding the social relevance to the society?
Yeah. So anything which is beneficial for society. Now that can come from any area. So as I said, this year SIIP at Venture Center supported agri-tech, but different incubators had different themes. Like one incubator was supporting devices, one was supporting diagnostics. So if you are making some simple medical device which can help, like I discussed about the defibrillator, right? So that's a kind of a social innovation, because that can be used in remote settings. Or if you're working in energy and environment area and you come up with some solar grids, which can be deployed in rural areas, and you can generate electricity there with that. So that's also a social innovation. So anything which can, you know, solve a grassroots problem.
Okay.
That could fall under social innovation. It can be under any theme. It can be related to biotech, it can be related to engineering, but we will see what is its impact, final impact, and like who all would get benefited and what way. That would decide.
Madam, are there any resources that are available online for these social innovations?
Yes, so there is a website of social innovations at Venture Center. You can refer there what kind of projects have been supported.
Okay.
Or even on BIRAC, if you look for SIIP fellows or SPARSH grantees. SPARSH is the grant. So if you just type SPARSH, SPARSH, all capital, grantees from BIRAC, you will get over the years who all they have supported under SPARSH. And the project titles will be there. So that will help you understand.
Okay. So what is the minimum funding and maximum funding assistance that is supported, madam, for these kind of projects?
Yeah. So in social innovations, there are two things, right? There is a fellowship, which is kind of 50,000 per month fellowship for 1 year. And if you get a SPARSH grant, that is 50 lakhs grant for 18 months.
Okay.
These are by BIRAC.
So is there any, are there any specific guidelines that need to be followed for this SPARSH grant, ma'am?
Yes.
So anyone can apply, students can apply, students can apply for this?
Yes, students can also apply as an individual. Only thing is, once they get it, they would be asked to start a company or, incorporate a startup.
Okay.
So every grant will have some conditions.
Okay.
If you are selected, you need how you need to take it ahead.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
So, any other questions?
Are there any questions in the chat box? No, I don't think so.
You can use the chat box.
Please ask questions. Those can be very basic questions. We need not worry. I'll be happy to answer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or in case you all want to tell and know something more about, say, not maybe the grants and funding agencies, but maybe how to start or how people have started here or anything like that. Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a doubt here. Say, for example, if any of the faculty members are doing research with a good novel idea and they want to commercialize it. For that reason, they want some kind of grants. Okay, that may be in any domain. Okay, how Venture Center can help them in writing the grants? Like, are you going to give any specific services for such people? Like, because all the participants here are from faculty background. Okay, so most of them might be pursuing their research and PhDs. Okay, so well, in that case, this line of action and how Venture Center will help them will give a broader picture of understanding of how to get the grants at the basic level in their research.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, we do provide this kind of service at Venture Center. So we have an ignition program, that's pre-incubation program. So under which we provide mentoring for a year, and the charges are 1,000 rupees for 1 year. So once you enroll for that program, or before even enrolling to that program, even if you write to us that you're working on this kind of idea and you wish to apply for some funds and raise some grants. So we will guide you which would be the relevant grants for you, and then how to write that grant proposal so that it is more successful. Sometimes like that, some tips which I shared right now. So maybe with respect to your project, what all should be included and in what manner, all that we will help you with. So definitely that service we provide, and you can just write to us and we can then take it forward. That is possible.
Super, ma'am. Thank you. So any other questions? Participants, you can use chat box to get clarify your doubts. Okay. So if there are no doubts, we can wind it up. At the outset, I want to give a summary of the whole session. See, the session was basically designed in such a way that individual student or group of students with an innovative idea, how they can benefit from the grants and the funding agencies or the fellowships. That is one line of action that Madam has covered. And the second line was how the faculty or the researchers who have their research activity with some novel ideas and innovation, how they can grab the grants and what kind of grants they have and what are few things they have to remind while writing the grants. All these things she has covered. And above all, if any of the faculty members and the students who are working towards innovative idea to establish ventures, to establish their own startups. So this session is in particular is very, very helpful, Madam. You have given the post-mortem of all the fellowships and grants. Thank you very much for that. I think all of our participants has got good enough knowledge on various kinds of grants and the procedures and at what stage they have to apply. And yeah, thank you very much for that, such a wonderful insight towards grant writing and everything, Madam. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and spending time with our participants. And we are looking forward to work with you, Madam, closely. Thank you very much. And if you, yeah, so we got some question or compliment, I think. So excellent session about funding opportunities. Yeah, Manikanta, he's from Srinivasa Ramanujan Institute of Technology. So as I told you, like we have engineering faculty members and few are from management faculty. Okay, so we have only 5 academic partners. We want to establish innovation centers in their institutions. That is the core concept of this Acharya 3.0 program. Thank you very much, Madam, for spending time on giving
Just
wonderful
one thing I
knowledge.
would like to add here is for academicians, you must also talk to your principals or your management, what kind of policies they have put together for you people. If you want to take up a break from maybe your service for 1 or 2 years to pursue this as a startup. So what are the provisions? And as you said, some people are from management background and some from engineering. So engineering people might work on processes products, whereas the management people, they can help them understand project management, the business model or business plan part of it. So there has to be a good collaboration between people with complementary skills if you really want to make a startup.
So that's where the team building gives more.
Yeah, you can't work in silo. Yeah, you can't work in silo. You all need to talk to each other and understand that everyone would have some plus and minuses, and we need to balance that. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you, ma'am. And we work at the management level also to bring up such policies.
Yes.
What kind of incentivizations that management can provide to the faculty members if they are willing to work towards this entrepreneurship activities. So including students as well. So we are working in that direction also. Yeah. So thank you very much, ma'am, for your time and giving us wonderful insights. I'm looking forward to work with you. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you, participants, for your listening, and tomorrow we will meet in another session. Okay, so tomorrow Abharishi, who is a startup coach, and she will be delivering a session on how to identify the startup idea. Okay, she's a wonderful coach, and you can find out a lot of her lectures in Upgrad and other major platforms. Believe me, she's a wonderful speaker, and you will learn a lot of things, especially if a student comes forward and tell you that, sir, I have a idea, so how to evaluate it. So this particular session will help you in such cases. Okay, so thank you very much all, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir, for arranging very informative.
Thank you, sir.
Sessions.
Thank you.